The galaxy had known peace for 11,000 years. Not the fragile, negotiated peace of equals holding each other at bay, but the deep, settled stillness of a civilization so ancient it had forgotten what war tasted like. The conclave of elders governed 240 species across 6 spiral arms, and at the center of their wisdom sat High Elder Kael Veyron, whose crystalline form had drifted through the void for longer than humanity had held fire. He was not cruel. He was not arrogant. He was simply old, in the way that mountains are old, and he had watched things die before. That was why, when the scouts first brought him readings from the third planet of Sol, he had issued the silence edict without hesitation. Do not approach. Do not provoke. Do not awaken them. The edict was carved into the memory cores of every conclave vessel. It was taught to hatchlings and larvae and spore children across the galaxy as a fundamental truth, like gravity or entropy. Humanity was sleeping. Let them sleep. But Commander Joe Many Die of the Vrethkai Dominion had never been good at following orders he found stupid. Joe Many Die was young by Vrethkai standards, barely 4 centuries old, his carapace still the vibrant amber of early adulthood, his compound eyes bright with the particular arrogance that comes from being talented and knowing it. He commanded the relentless Dawn, a sleek Vrethkai destroyer that had been dispatched to the galactic fringe on a mapping survey so routine it was almost an insult. Until he found the human colony ship. It was ancient, even by conclave reckoning. 40,000 humans in cryosuspension, drifting through the outer dark on a vessel that had clearly suffered a catastrophic navigation failure. By his calculations, they had been drifting for over 3 centuries. Their trajectory would carry them into a debris field within 6 months. After that, nothing. Joe Many Die studied the vessel for 2 full days before he did the thing he had been explicitly, clearly, repeatedly ordered never to do. He hailed them. The response came 40 minutes later, which told him the humans were alert, faster than expected, and had been watching him right back. The face on his screen was a woman, brown-skinned, sharp-eyed, wearing a uniform that looked like it had been slept in for a week. She was perhaps 40 years old in the human reckoning, which meant she had been awake for some time. The tag on her uniform read, Admiral Darian Voss, UES Perseverance. Unknown vessel, she said, her voice carrying the particular flatness of someone who had been terrified and decided to hide it behind professionalism. I am Admiral Darian Voss of the United Earthship Perseverance. You are broadcasting on our emergency frequency. State your intentions. Joe Many Die ran her voice through the translator and considered his response carefully. Admiral Voss, he said. My name is Commander Joe Many Die of the Vrethkai Dominion. I am here because your ship is on a collision course with the Harith debris field. I would like to help you. A pause. Long enough that he wondered if the translation had failed. How many species, she said slowly, know about that debris field? He blinked all 4 of his eyes. Most of the conclave's navigational charts include it. Perhaps 200 species have direct knowledge. Another pause, longer this time. And none of them stopped to warn us. It was not a question. Her voice had shifted, not to anger, but to something quieter and more dangerous. The way a predator goes still before it moves. There is an edict, Joe Many Die admitted. Concerning humanity. Non-interference. Non-contact. An edict, Darian Voss repeated. For how long? 11,000 years. The silence that followed lasted a very long time. High Elder Kael Veyron received the report on his meditation platform, orbiting a dying star that he had watched collapse into a white dwarf over the last 3 millennia. His aide, a young conclave diplomat named Hyrule, delivered it with the nervous energy of someone delivering news that would change everything. He made contact, Kael Veyron said. Yes, High Elder. Commander Joe Many Die of the Vrethkai Dominion has initiated direct communication with the human vessel Perseverance. He has also offered them navigational assistance and has begun transmitting the conclave's star charts. Kale Veyron was silent for a long moment. His crystalline body refracted the dim light of the dying star into fractured rainbows across the floor. "Call an emergency session," he said at last. "And send a vessel to retrieve the commander before he does anything else irreversible." But he was already too late. He simply did not know it yet. Admiral Darian Voss was not a woman who panicked. She had been awake for 16 days straight, managing a crew of 300 emergency revived personnel, keeping 40,000 sleeping colonists alive with failing power relays and recycled air. She had dealt with a reactor cascade, a mutiny attempt by 2 of her junior officers, and the mathematical certainty of death by debris field. A first contact scenario barely registered on her threat scale. What registered was this: there were 200 species out there who had known about humanity for 11,000 years. Who had watched? Who had chosen to do nothing? She filed that information in the part of her brain labeled problems for later and focused on the immediate: the alien commander offering her star charts, navigational corrections, and, if she was reading the translation correctly, an escort out of the debris corridor. "What do you want in exchange?" she asked. Joe Many Dai seemed surprised by the directness. "Nothing. You are in danger. It would be wrong to let you die." Darian Voss studied his face, or what passed for his face, the amber-plated features and multifaceted eyes that her brain kept trying to map onto something familiar. She had trained her whole life for this. Every astronaut, every naval officer of her generation had, in the back of their mind, considered the possibility. She had imagined it differently. More ceremony. More awe. Instead, it felt like exactly what it was: a rescue operation. Her in the water, him throwing the rope. "All right, Commander," she said. "Walk us through the navigation correction. And when we're clear, I'd like to have a longer conversation about this edict of yours." The emergency conclave session lasted 9 hours. Kale Veyron sat at the center of the great orbital chamber, feeling his 11,000 years in every atom of his being, and listened to 200 species argue about what to do. Some wanted Joe Many Dai punished. Some wanted the human vessel disabled before it could reach populated space. Some wanted the edict reinforced with military enforcement. And through all of it, Kale Veyron was quiet. Because he remembered why the edict existed. He remembered what the original conclave scouts had observed 11,000 years ago, when they had first trained their instruments on the blue planet. He remembered what had frightened his predecessors so deeply that they had voted, unanimously, to seal the record and issue the silence. Humans did not stop. That was it. That was the whole terrifying truth. Every species the conclave had ever encountered had limits: biological, psychological, philosophical. Points at which the cost of continuing exceeded the will to press forward. Points where they chose survival over victory, or rest over conquest, or peace over the grinding exhaustion of perpetual effort. Humanity had never, in 11,000 years of observed history, found that point. They had been hit with plagues that should have ended them. Ice ages. Volcanic winters. They had collapsed and fragmented and nearly vanished a dozen times. And every single time, the survivors had looked at the wreckage of everything they had built, counted what remained, and started again. Not with hope, necessarily. Not even with optimism. Just with the blunt, relentless refusal to accept that it was over. Kale Veyron had thought, for 11,000 years, that the best thing the galaxy could do was let them sleep. Leave them to their small corner. Keep them from discovering the vastness of everything else, because once they knew, truly knew, what was out there, there would be no stopping them. They would want all of it. Not out of greed, but out of that same inextinguishable need that had dragged them out of every previous extinction. He had thought he was protecting the galaxy from humanity. Now, watching the feed from the relentless dawn, watching Admiral Darian Voss, 16 days without sleep, running on recycled air and stubbornness, calmly requesting star charts and planning the next step, he understood that he had been wrong. He hadn't been protecting the galaxy from humanity. He had been protecting the galaxy from knowing humanity. From having to look at that face, tired, focused, already thinking 3 problems ahead, and reckon with what it meant. With what it represented. With the deeply uncomfortable truth that of all the species in all the spiral arms, only one of them had never, not once, truly given up. He raised one crystalline hand. The chamber fell silent. "Rescind the edict," he said quietly. The chamber erupted. But Kale Veyron was no longer listening. He was watching the screen. Watching Darien Voss guide 40,000 sleeping humans toward safety, alone, on a broken ship, in a universe she had just discovered was infinitely larger and stranger than she had known. She didn't look afraid. She looked interested. 11,000 years of caution, unraveled in a single moment. And somewhere in the dark, humanity woke up.